Hey everyone, this is ScrapComputer. This video is going to be covering one-trick ponies, jacks of all trades, and the middle ground in between, and how you can use these or adapt these playstyles to basically win more ranked games, hopefully win more games in general, or teach yourself the game. I will be covering the pros and cons of each of them, and I'll be explaining them briefly as well. Let's get right into it. One-trick pony. A one-trick pony is a player who plays one champion only. Let's say, for the most common example, Riven. They'll play nothing but Riven unless directly forced to. Additionally, they only usually main one role as well, but they normally can play two, but the one role is their main by far. Jack of all trades. A jack of all trades is a player who can play a massive champion pool or play a most if not all of the roles. They do not specialize in any one given role or champion, but are usually good at a lot of them. Two mains player. This is more of a middle ground between jack of all trades and a one-trick pony. A two-main player has two main roles in which they only play, and a small pool of champions for these roles. They normally main a single role but have a secondary which they're great at as well. The champion pool is around 2 to 4 champions for both roles. It can be more, but the most successful type is 2 to 4. So we have 3 main different types of player you can be. Of course, there is middle grounds in between these subsections, but for the most part I'm just going to be meaning these as main categories. Each has certain pros and cons. I'll cover these and which I feel is best at climbing and gaining ELO from later on into this video. So for the next part I'm going to do a couple of scores to basically represent what the role is good at, and I feel these scores represent it quite well. So I'm going to be covering champion pools, roles played, the amount of roles, win rate potential, how much this type of style has to win in general, and finally teaching level, how helpful it is increasing your skill and knowledge of the game. Let's finally begin. One-trick pony, champion pool 1. Now this isn't saying they only play one champion, that would be ridiculous. They can play other ones, but they mainly only specialize in one champion only. The amount of pool and amount of effort and strength they have in other champions is minimalistic in comparable terms. Roles played 1. They also usually have experience in a second role, but again, for the most part, they main one role only, and it's their best role by far, and their secondary role they usually don't perform even nearly as well in. Win rate potential, very, very, very high if you get the champion. In normal, I would give this a high score though, because you're not always going to get your champion, you're not always going to get the right role, and sometimes you pick incorrect champions in incorrect compositions. Teaching level, very, 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 very low. And if the screen was larger, I'd put in more varies. The teaching level in which you get in this role is unbelievably small. You're going to get experience maybe in top lane, let's say, use the example Riven. Yeah, you get experience in trading, doing damage, all these fun things, but it's one champion. You're not going to know how to be a tank, you're not going to know how to cast, you're not going to know how to use that range advantage, you won't know how to AD carry works, you won't know anything. And basically, if you're new to the game, you're not going to learn much. You'll learn a bit, but not much. Pros. Unbelievable skill and knowledge and a single champion. Normally can play even versus counters on that champion, so it's hard to actually shut them down. Wins a lot of games due to expertise, just sheer expertise on a champion, which is far beyond normal player capabilities. True mastery of a champion, which most players can't deal with. So for the most part, you play versus people that play their champion a bit, and they're good at them. But have you ever played versus someone that only plays is one-tricking? It is terrifying. They know everything about that champion. They know more than you'll ever even fathom in your life. And because they know so much about it, they know every single individual power spike. And that comes on basically the overall summary of this. They're a true master of the champion. Very few players can use the power spikes, leveling orders, varying build paths, and they know every single matchup. They've played it tons. They know all of they know their capabilities. They know exactly what they can and can't get away with, which again, so few champions have and so few players have in this game. They win a lot of games and can conquer solo queue very easily because of this. Cons. Losing their champion can lose them the game. This is the biggest point. Not all one-tricks can play multiple roles, so I've actually seen one-tricks that can literally only play top lane. They can play top lane Riven, and that's it. I've seen Riven getting banned once, and well, let's just say we lost that game. If they don't get the role, they can also be screwed. And again, most of them have a backup, but generally they're just good in this one individual role. They're only really comfortable on their main. Any other champion can put them behind, mentally speaking, quite heavily. Again, a lot of one-tricks really good in their champ, but once they're taken out of the comfort zone, they don't perform very well. They're not a versatile player. They only really focus on one playstyle or one champion, which means your team's not going to do well. And this comes on to the next point. They're not well-rounded, and doesn't really learn much about the game in general. They can actually heavily limit the player in terms of becoming better and a more balanced, rounded base player. A lot of one-tricks are exceptional in their champion, but they get the cap at a certain level of play and they'll never get beyond it because they just haven't got this massive knowledge set of the game, and I find that is quite limiting. They will not fit a composition as well. You need a tank top? Nope. That top's playing Riven. You need a magic damage top laner because your whole team's AD? Nope. Nope, they're playing Riven. You need a champion that fits in a kite comp? Nope. Nope, they're playing Riven. You need an AoE comp? Okay, they're playing Riven. Need to protect the carry comp? They're playing Riven. It doesn't matter what comp you've got, they're going to play their champion. And this can screw your team over really heavily. I mean, it's really frustrating when you've got a comp that's very, very formalized, very, very one-directional, and then a champion plays something like Riven. It is hard, it is difficult, and this can completely screw over an entire composition and the player themselves. Even though they're good at the champ, I don't think they can overcome that. And absolutely finally, I just want to reiterate, they are limited as a player due to all of the points above. They may be good, they may even be great at the game, but they will never truly master the game or become very, 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 very high level, because it'll get to the point where you just need to have a lot about team play. You need to fit a composition, and this is the reason why OneTricks, you never see them in the LCS, and you never will, because they can get banned out in one simple click. Summary. For experienced players who love a certain champion who is not heavily picked or banned much, they can win absolute crap tons of games with the next level mastery of a champion. This is a really good way to gain elo. If this is what you want, and it's a good decent pickup, but it has a lot of risks, I feel like the potential of getting your champion role taken is too high, especially in the new system. OneTricks have grown stronger with champion select, but unfortunately, you can still just be banned out, you can be picked out, and that's a big risk. And in my opinion, it's really good to carry elo, but it's got too many risks from me. As for newer players listening, avoid this at all costs. You won't learn nearly as much as playing multiple champions. For tactics, winning ranked games only as a solo player, this is great. It's not better at doing anything else realistically though. Jack of all trades, champion pool. This can be anything from 15 to every champion in the game, although the number, commonly speaking, is 10 to about, I've seen up to 25 in general. Roles played, 5 potentially. Again, can be lower, can be 3, but for the most part they can play anything. Win rate potential, low medium. It's okay, it's fine. You win a good couple of games because you help out a team, you pick the right player and the right comp, but it's not going to be a solo car. I'll get into that later. Teaching level, very, 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 very high. And once again, I'd put more varies in if I could. This is really, really good. This, for teaching you the game, Jack of all trades means you're playing top, you're playing mid, you're playing support, you're playing jungle, you're playing tons of different champions, and you're teaching yourself the game, decision making, mechanics, everything is being taught, which is very, very good. This is probably one of the better and probably the best in terms of teaching yourself the game if you're new. Pros. They're the most rounded players in the game because they play tons of roles and truck tons of champions, which means they've got a lot of well-rounded experience. They literally can't be picked out or banned. They fit compositions well. You need a tank top? I play Malphite, that's not a problem. What other? Maokai, maybe I can play Maokai if you need it. Nautilus? Rammus? You need an AP top lane. Top laner, we need that. Is Lissandra okay? How about Cho'Gath? I play Cho'Gath too. Would that be okay? We need a bruiser top. I have Darius, Olaf, Renekton. How about Fiora if we need a bit more of assassin orientation? Which would you prefer? Do you see what I'm saying here though? They're just really versatile. They open up a lot of compositional positions in the game. So there are a lot of players that can do this. They can play any role, they can fit any weakness in your comp, and that is always invaluable to have. And it basically means that the team has a lot of openings to basically be very fluid with their picks and always know that there's one player there that's going to fit all the weaknesses in. Generally, they're some of the best team players in the game. They fix comps. I've noticed this type of player is generally quite good at just teamwork in general, coming together, collapsing with other people, picking the right comp, making the right calls. This comes on to my next point. They have knowledge. From playing all of the roles, and most champions, they have a vast amount of knowledge and experience in every single champion and every single role. So essentially, in lane, you'll employ certain strategies to defeat someone. They've seen it all. There's nothing, you can't really surprise this kind of player because they've just got so much experience. You've tried to use a strategy to get them like a level 2 rush top lane. They've seen that before because they've played top lane. So they know what's going to happen. Now, even if they're not playing top lane in their jungle, they're going to know that's going to happen. Which, although sounds small, if you expand this out to all lanes and all champions, if you know what a champion's looking for, you know how to defeat it. To defeat something, you first must understand it. This player has done all the roles. They know what strategies you're going to use before you've implemented them yourself, which gives them a large advantage in-game. From the point above, these players are by far the best shot callers and decision makers in the game because they calculate the game as a whole rather than a micro level in terms of one individual lane. Of course, these are not 100% rules, but they are for the most part correct. And lastly, this teaches the game better than any other style ever. This means you're playing multiple champions, multiple roles, you're trying out crap tons of builds, you're playing so many different champs, your decision making is variant every single game, your position is variant every single game, which means that you're just teaching yourself the game in a really vast way, which is fantastic. This is a really good way for those newer players out there to do amazingly and teach themselves so much about the game. Cons. This style removes a lot of hard carrying capabilities. Now this is the major point. You're not maining and mastering a champion to a deadly limit. You're playing everything. The saying, good at everything, master of nothing, really goes quite deep here. This is the main withdrawal of this style. A good example would be a swordsman who can use 100 different weapons to a decent degree. They've used them, and that's used the quotation marks of mastered the weapon. And another who has only his whole life used nothing but a sword and shield. Who do you think would win the fight if they both fought with one weapon? Because you can only use one at once. I think the swordsman, that with the shield, they would do well. But say the other guy picks up a mace and then a shield in the other hand. Because let's make it equal. Yes, that guy's used the mace. Yes, he's used the shield. But the other gentleman, the guy with the sword and shield, who's been using it his whole life and nothing else, has the inherent advantage, regardless of how much knowledge the other person has of other weapons. Because you can't play two champions at once. You just can't. So because of that, it means they just have a really, really good advantage for themselves. And that means, for the most part, the one-tricks, or the people that main a very small amount of champion pools, just have the advantage in you as a player, which removes your carrying playstyle. They also mainly get support. This goes from my previous point, but playing support is very, very great for this type of player because this type of player is a supportive player, but it won't win you as many games. And whenever they are playing carry roles, for the most part, they end up picking up a Malphite top lane to pick a tank for the team. No one else has picked a tank, so they're tank jungle. And no matter where they're playing, they usually play utility or tanks, which, once again, just removes your ability to hard carry. Because people don't like playing utility in League, until you get to higher level anyway. They're not confident. Confident links to winning heavily. When playing a new champion each and every single game, you can never get to that comfortable mode of players that play a lot of different champions. Summary. This role is a real team player kind of role. It's amazing for ensuring your team has a good composition, your team always have what they need on hand, and teaching yourself the game to a massive degree. For new players, I always advise heavily going fill or picking in different roles every single time to get a master for a lot more than just one individual lane. For more experienced players, avoid doing this. After you've already went through the trudging of teaching yourself every champion to a degree, master a small pool of champions, master the sword and shield, and use it to defeat the man who got a good feel for 100 weapons. Because at the end of the day, experience with one trumps experience from them all in this circumstance. They can only use one weapon at once, hence it's always in your court, always in your advantage. Avoid this style to win ranked games. If you're playing this a lot, you're not going to win too much ranked games because you're playing different champs. You'll never be competent enough to beat someone who's truly, truly experienced in just one individual weapon. To main player. I'll be comparing this with OneTrick for this one because they're pretty close together. Champion pool 2 to 4. Mostly people go for 4 champs because they have a backup in each role, but 2 is possible, just a little risky if you get banned out. Roles played, only 2. They literally only play 2. They normally have a main, a single main, but they play 2 roles. Win rate potential, very high. Teaching level, low. Not horrible, not atrocious, but low. Pros. They have mastery of a small pool of champions which most people can't deal with. Again, refer to the analogy. Much like OneTrick, you turn into a 2-trick, which basically means you have mastery of 2 to 4 champions. This is less powerful, of course, than a single mastery, but still really effective. A champion per role you usually use, and then a backup for each of those behind that, means that you're just going to have an amazing amount of skill to basically outdo a lot of players without this level of knowledge. They're a little bit more versatile. With 2 to 4 picks, there's some breathing room there. Unlike OneTrick, you can only play any mid, let's say, I can play Veigar and Anivia mid, both to a very good standard. So I can switch out a little if I need to get something to fill the comp. Which is, again, it's not perfect, it's not, but it's a little bit more breathing room. unlikely to be banned out. This is a pretty big strength. The weakness of a OneTrick is also covered. Although possible to be banned out, the chance of 4 normal picks being removed, including your secondaries, it is extremely low. I personally have 2 mains and 2 backups. I have never, I repeat, never been banned out yet. To be fair, I play sort of obscure champions like a Nivea, for example, but in saying that, like, I've never even had 3 of them being taken. I really haven't. So you can get away with this. It is a risk, but it's minimal. You can play 2 roles. Once again, I always get my skill on 2 roles and 2 champions. That means that's why it's called a 2 main, 2 for each. This basically means that I'm always in a role I am comfortable playing. I am always in a role I like. I'm always playing champions I like. There is no time in which I'm put out of my comfort zone. I'm always playing a champion I'm very good with, and I'm always playing a role I'm also very good with. I always make sure I'm not put in a sticky situation where I don't like the scenario. No matter how bad your comp is or how strong the enemy are, as long as you're playing your champion, playing on your lane, you always feel okay. And I feel it's true for most players in the league, and I'm sure these guys listening included. I'm the same. So this means that you're always going to be comfortable, which is the point I was going to mention after, but I've mainly covered it. When you're comfortable and you're playing a role and a champion you love, you're going to play better. It gives you more consistency and a great solid mindset. Cons: you don't learn as much as when you're playing a small pool of champions with only 2 roles. It's not bad, but it's not good either. I mean, you're learning and teaching yourself 2 roles, great, fantastic. It's not even nearly enough to actually completely know the game though. So for newcomers, it's not going to be enough. It's possible to be banned and picked out if you're playing OP or very popular champions. This is more prevalent in top and mid lane, but it does depend on your champion pool. If your champion pool is popular, it is possible though, albeit unlikely. It's not heavily versatile. It's still basically one-tricking with extra baggage in your hand. You won't be able to pick everything your comp needs, but it's a little bit more helpful to basically pick something else. But you're still weak. It doesn't matter. At the end of it, you're still a weak pick. You're not going to fill right. You're not going to fill out anything, essentially. At least you've generally got 2 to 4 options. It's better than 1, but it's still low. Summary: in my opinion, this is the best playstyle by far to gain elo. You are always comfortable and you've always got minimal risks involved, including giving your team a little bit of versatility in comparable terms to one-tricking, which is the best way of winning a game. Playing champions you're comfortable with, playing champions you have mastered has always been a way of gaining elo, and that is essentially true now, and especially in the new system which forces you into 2 roles. Because you're always playing a role you like, always playing champions you perform well on and have mastery on, and a very small pool of champs which you've focused on, it means that you've got a bit of versatility, you've made these champs, and you're just going to keep on gaining elo. From my anecdotal experience, any jack of all trades or one-tricks lose a lot of games from being banned out or always being on supportive champions. 2 main style has tons of benefits, and a lack of versatility, yes, but it's still better than a one-trick. So if you want to gain elo fast and effectively, this, in my opinion, is the best playstyle. Just logically speaking and looking at it, it is the best. Especially in the new system where you'll always get your 2 roles. Lastly, this is not good for teaching yourself the game. You should go to jack of all trades and you not use 2 main. And basically play jack of all trades and main 2 roles at a time, or just go to fill every single time and try and teach yourself the game if you're trying to get better. But beyond that, you're not going to win many games. Before I sign off, understand that I want to mention you can use 2 main and have tons of champions, like 2 roles and just have lots of champions in them. That is possible, it's an iteration of it, but it's less effective than just maining 2 and being amazing. Refer to the swordsman analogy for reference. And that's it for the video, guys. If you like it, dislike it, dislike it. If you like the content, you can subscribe. And if you think it's horrible, I've really dropped the ball here, and I'm totally wrong, you can unsub, I'm totally fair. If you also think it's useful, and you know any one-tricks out there, and you want to give them a little shout, of course, guys, I'd always appreciate it. Beyond that, guys, have a great day, best luck in the Rift, and I'll see you guys next time.